You ready, Mel? I call to order the special City Council meeting of July 14, 2017 to order. The first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight that will be led by our Deputy Chief, Paul Brockbank.
Would the audience please rise and give the proper salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The audience may be seated.
Business item 3A, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 17-143, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of West Jordan and Oakland Construction to provide construction management general contractor services for the construction of the West Jordan Cultural Arts Facility in an amount not to exceed $225,000. We don't have a staff report on this. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. As you'll recall, we've been working for a number of years to build a public arts facility. A couple of years ago, we were awarded a grant from the county of $125,000 to use towards design of that facility. We have an architect on board. We've dedicated the funding towards that design. This is for the general contractor construction management portion so that we can build that out. The contract was determined to be awarded to Oakland Construction on Wednesday. The only reason we're including this on the meeting tonight rather than a regular council meeting is because we want them to be able to move expeditiously to meet the aggressive timeline that has been set. So with that background, I move that we approve Resolution 17-143.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Newton. Discussion to the motion. I would just like to state that sitting in on that, it was very close between the general contractors. It was a hard decision to make. It took quite a while. Oakland ended up being the one that prevailed. So, without any other comments, let's vote.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Newton.
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Business item 3B, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 17-144, authorizing the fire marshal to ban aerial fireworks beginning Friday, July 14, 2017, and ending December 31st, 2017. Chief McElreath.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for holding this meeting so that we can discuss a safety concern that I brought forward on Wednesday night at our regularly scheduled meeting. And so if I could, I would like to go through a couple of slides I've got prepared to talk about how we got here, and also what are some of the ramifications, if you so choose, to make a ban on aerial fireworks. And I've also got a map that will kind of give a picture of what occurred on July the 4th. And so if it's okay with you, Mayor, I'll proceed in that order.
Please.
Okay. On July the 4th, I talked to you about basically our resources got outused due to the number of fire calls we incurred on the 4th. The surrounding jurisdictions, they faced the same problems that we did. They were not available to respond. So in our case, we could have had incidents in West Jordan, but because we might have been in a neighboring community assisting them on a fire, we didn't have units available here. Two things occurred that brought me to bring this item up on Wednesday night. The first was a property loss of $30,000 that we know was contributed to aerial fireworks. Second, in another part of Salt Lake County, you may have saw that there was property damage to a single-family residence that was widely reported due to aerial fireworks. And then the last bullet point there, that the current weather conditions and what we've experienced in the spring as far as how wet and the grass is, the way they've grown, and then with the heat and the temperature has made it, everything has kind of come together to be able to start fires. So the 2 points that got me to the point we're at today was, one, that property loss. That alone is not the reason that I brought it up. The more accurate one is the 54 calls that we responded on, 10 of which of those were outside of our city. But nonetheless, those calls where we put our firefighters and our citizens in a position that when they made the call to report a fire, regardless of the size, they waited 10 to 15 minutes for a fire unit to arrive to extinguish that fire. I can tell you firsthand, when our firefighters, when I talked to them, they were not greeted by pleased residents, and I totally get why the residents would not be happy. They expect to have a quick response to take care of their problem, but to no fault of theirs, they were doing the best that they could. So on those 2 points is why I brought this issue up on Wednesday. Now, if I can, I also understand that there's ramifications and the position that you folks are in if you choose to ban those. One is the city, since June 23rd, has licensed and allowed retailers. We have 22 fireworks stands in West Jordan, and they've bought product, they've sold it. We have residents who have purchased them. If this ban's put in place, then we know they're going to have to store those fireworks somewhere. There's also an unbudgeted enforcement personnel cost to enforce such a ban. I believe that's in your staff report, working with our police department, code enforcement, along with fire personnel. That's an estimated $2,700, I believe, is the number that we put in there. Lastly, enforcement doesn't come without problems as well. Obviously, our approach in doing enforcement is to make contact, give a warning, make sure they understood the ban, and then if we have to, we go back and we move the enforcement up to the next level. That takes time. If you start down that road of issuing citations, taking the banned fireworks, we could easily have officers spending 45 minutes to an hour to do that. So the enforcement, we've put in the staff report to make a great effort to do that, that is the issues that I have. You might have, I'm sure you have others if you've had constituents contact you about the ramifications. And if I could, if Rita will switch that over to the map, let me just, it's at the bottom, I think. There it is. Okay, so this map, the yellow dots are fire calls that occurred between June 30th and July 3rd. The red dots and the stars are actual fireworks incidents. Now, I get it. If you add all this up, it doesn't come up to that 54 number we've talked about. I had some problems with data and getting this map prepared. What you're not seeing on here is the 21 medical calls that also came in this time period between 9:30 and 12:30 that took resources to handle those calls in addition to the fire calls. So this map indicates it doesn't indicate the 10 calls that we went outside the city. So there's 22 fire calls that occurred in the city. I would point out that if we can use the laser pointer and show you where the ban is that we currently have in place due to the urban interface, this area right here, we had 0 problems out there. I'm not saying that the fireworks weren't shot off out there, but we did not have any fires. So, and then the other areas that we banned back on, I think it was June 22nd, was the Barney's Wash area and those areas where the urban interface butts up against single-family dwellings. So that map kind of is a visual picture of what happened on July the 4th. And with that, that's the information that I have. I'm happy to entertain questions, whatever else I can do for you. And again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Questions from council. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief McElroy, you mentioned that there were also a number of medical calls that were included in the list of things that were responded to on the 4th of July. Is there also a delay in responding to those medical calls as well as the fire?
So I'm not aware that we took 15 minutes to get up to a medical call. So at the dispatch center, Deputy Chief Peterson, who was over our operations division, we actually sent him to work at the dispatch center to help prioritize calls. So if a medical call came in, we would ensure that, try to get units to go to that call before we went to fire, using the life safety as a priority and then property conservation.
Thank you.
Councilmember Newton.
A couple of thoughts, Chief. This comes at an inopportune time, obviously. We have businesses that have, like you say, invested in fireworks, and citizens who have bought. And my concern is that if we ban this, half the people out there probably won't even hear about it. And but with the news coverage, maybe more will do so. So that helps. I also have a concern that the areas covered, since it's over the whole city, enforcement is going to be very, very difficult in many respects. I'm not sure that we're going to solve the problem. It's a concern. We want to. We don't want to have problems with loss of property, or even worse, injuries or loss of life, anything like that. I'm just not sure that the ban would accomplish that at this point in time, and I'm not sure where I stand. But those are some of the concerns.
Mayor, if I might.
Chief McElreath.
The one part I left out, and we probably should allow Chief Diamond, as I've worked with him too on the enforcement, I think it might be helpful to let him speak on how enforcement might work and to give you an idea of how effective we can be with it.
Please.
Mayor and Council, thank you. It is difficult at best to enforce fireworks because usually they have to go off before we react. It's very hard to be proactive in that enforcement, especially on a major holiday like the 24th. We have planned, if you do enact this ban, we have planned to put out extra units in conjunction with the fire units that Chief McElreath can produce as well, to try and do enforcement. The problem that we have with enforcement is being able to get from different calls to different calls. I anticipate that at best, we would each pair of officers, because we would send them out in pairs, just because usually where there's fireworks, there's crowd gatherings and stuff, so there's officer safety issues. But we would send them out in pairs, and they probably at best would be able to handle about 4 calls an hour, maybe 5 calls an hour if the calls were very close to each other. Just by the time they go, talk to people, get back in the car and drive to the next one. So there's going to be a limited number of calls that we can actually produce. If we do this and we do increase the enforcement, my instructions to my officers will be what Chief McElreath described, is to warn and educate, and then those that, for lack of a better term, don't get the message or won't abide by the message, then we would take enforcement action. And so that's what our primary goal would be, is not to take heavy enforcement action, but to warn and educate. And then also on those ones, if we did have to take enforcement action, it will take that unit out for probably 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the number of fireworks that they have to do, the cooperativeness of the subjects that we take the fireworks from, how much documentation they have to do, those types of things. So I hope that gives you a better understanding about the enforcement actions that we would take if this ban were to go into effect.
We have one more staff report from our city attorney. You had a few things to add to the packet.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I have placed at your desk, or there at your seat, a request for council action. You'll notice it has a red line across it. That's how you'll distinguish it from that was published. Following your decision to have this special meeting, I began to hear from council as well as lobbyists on behalf of the industry. I want to take time to acknowledge I received an email from, I don't know if it's a Mr. or Ms. Farley representing TNT Fireworks. I received a phone call from a lobbyist representing the industry. I think they raised some valid concerns that are reflective in our effort to modify what has been an existing ordinance in West Jordan since 2009. So this is something that's not unique to West Jordan. The ability to enact the resolution is one that is allowed either by city council or by the fire chief. We're not creating new law tonight. We're enacting the resolution that with the new language that you're going to see and highlighted in yellow reflects exactly the language that is restrictive by Utah code. That is to say, individuals who fire off fireworks negligently will be in violation of the law. And typically that would be if you have one of these devices that I think I may ask Chief Charman to help me out, but they're called cakes and they have flanges at the bottom. If you stabilize that, you can fire it off perhaps safely. When you don't and you negligently fire it off, you'll be in violation of the law. Additionally, the state allows a fire chief to make a determination that aerial fireworks are dangerous under dry conditions with high temperatures, low precipitation, and abundant foliage. If the chief makes that determination under Utah law, he can actually enact this resolution without city support, city council support. So I think by coming here, we were trying to make sure the public was aware, that you were aware that there's complete transparency within West Jordan. So with that clearly, hopefully explained a little better, I would ask that if you consider enacting the resolution, you do so with the one that's got the little red stripe across the bottom. There is something I need to point out about both the staff report. There's a reflection that if you in fact enact it, it refers to September. Excuse me, that's a different item, but this one reflects an effective date through January 4th. Our notice was for December 31st, so there may be a need for you to discuss if you want to enact this past January 1 or have it effect conclude prior to 31st. With that explanation, if I need to answer any further questions, I'm available to do so.
Questions from council. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, are we going to permit any public to speak? Because I may, if we are, I'll withhold my comments until after them when I gain more information. If not, then I will make some comments now.
And I was going to invoke personal privilege to allow short comments from the public.
Okay, in that case, I will hold mine until after the public speaks. Thank you.
Looks like everybody. No, Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Were you anticipating 3 minutes a person or less?
No, less than 3.
2?
So I would like to keep it to 1 minute.
Okay.
Melanie, if you can reset the clock.
I move to suspend the rules to allow for public comment for this particular business item, not to exceed 1 minute per person.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe,
Yes.
Councilmember Burton,
Yes.
Councilmember Newton,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
We'll now open the mic to citizens who want to speak for up to 1 minute on this issue. The mic is yours. For the record, please state your name and address.
Alexandra Efraimo, 3735 Judd Circle, Mayor and Council. I'm 1,000,000% in favor of banning aerial fireworks, but I'm also 1,000,000% in banning all fireworks, meaning ground fireworks of any kind. The majority of fires occur by man-made, we'll light this firework, we'll light them. And I don't know how many, because generally an aerial firework, by the time the little things come down, they're dried out. It's man-made fireworks that are going. And as far as TNT having getting permission to go ahead and sell, you can't predict anything. What if people that are at Macy's and they get all these dresses that come in and all of a sudden you have a fire and you can't sell those dresses? That's not an excuse in my opinion. You do that on the hopes of this. I pray you ban fireworks. Thank you.
Please.
Jay Thomas, 1348 West, Barton Hollow Drive. As most of you know, I'm a little bit biased on this issue. Having to fight those fires for many years, I'm definitely in support of banning the aerial fireworks. In the area I live in, I don't live that far off of where the Jordan Parkway is, which is very vulnerable at this time for that kind of stuff also. It does pose a lot of potential as far as property damage and even potential life safety. In all the years that I was in the fire service, I mean, I worked many 4th of Julys and stuff, and we spent all night out fighting those fires, and that puts a big toll on our firefighters and also our police officers that have to go out and enforce that. Even though that they are going to have to go out and enforce that, I think most of the time it's the few individuals that do not agree with the law or will obey by the law, and so I'm definitely in support of a ban on aerial fireworks. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Michelle Foote, 1252 Lucky Cove, West Jordan. I am in favor of the ban. I'm not sure how the enforcement will work. I'm not sure if people will even be cooperative and do it. If the city council chooses not to enforce a ban, maybe we can at least issue a statement asking for a voluntary ban and explain the concerns and the resources that have been put to the test with the 4th of July holiday. And I don't know, maybe there's good people out there who would be willing to step up and voluntarily not shoot their aerials. I've personally witnessed neighbor aerials gone bad and fires started because of aerials. And I've only seen 4 neighborhood aerial firework displays. 3 of those resulted in property damage and 1 did not. And the one that did not used proper cinder blocks, blocking them in, and they did it. The other 3 did not. So maybe a little education to the public about how to properly display their fireworks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak from the public?
Jalen Thomas, 1348 West, Barton Hollow Drive. As reluctant as I am, I support the ban. You know, we all love our fireworks, but when it comes down to people's safety, property damage, having damage to their home, they lose all their memories, their pictures, everything like that, it's not worth it. Loss of life. And our police and fire are already drained from the 4th of July. I think we're looking at a lesser of the 2 evils by putting the ban in place. And hopefully it gives our police and fire some relief on this coming weekend. Thank you. Or the 24th of July weekend.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, I'm Nancy Perry from 2184 West Abbey View. Everybody has talked about the fire department and the police department, which we all appreciate. I'm person that has controlled asthma. But every time the 4th of July, the 24th comes up, I have to increase my meds, which is costing me money, and I have doctor's appointments that I normally wouldn't have. And then I have 3 dogs who hate fireworks, so I do want them, and thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Jared Belcher, 6664 South 3270 West. Mayor Wolf and Council, thank you for letting me address you. It sounds like, according to the city attorney, the city has 2 options. They can ban negligent use of fireworks, or the fire chief can restrict fireworks according to state law. And really, there's no other option that the city can take. I don't see the need to ban outright fireworks or aerial fireworks within the city because state law does not allow that. As difficult of a decision as that may be, I think that is the correct decision, is to let the fire chief make his restrictions based on current state law, and rather than pass an ordinance that would likely be challenged or in contrary to state law. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now close any citizen comments and return to the council for discussion and motion. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple questions for Chief McElreath. On this map right here, I just would like to get clarification. We have stars that say firework incidents, and we have dots that say fire calls. Are there a difference between an incident is where
What I was trying to indicate is we were more certain that those star ones were a direct result of fireworks, where the report wasn't clear enough for me to say that the ones that say fire calls, if it was directly related to fireworks and aerial fireworks at that. So I'm trying to show something and also pinpoint that I know it was fireworks related and aerial fireworks related. So just not enough information on the ones that are just the red dots.
Okay. And then, Mayor, if I may ask a couple more questions for Police Chief Diamond. You mentioned that with the staff we would have, you might be able to educate and warn 4 calls or 4 sites per hour. And I just worry because over the 4th of July, as I scanned over the valley as I'm watching the Western Stampede fireworks, it was a 360 view of aerial fireworks. And I'm just wondering if we can be effective with only handling, warning and educating 4 per hour.
That's per team of people we have out. We anticipate probably having, between the police and fire department, having someplace in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 teams of people out. So it would be that 4 multiplied times that.
Okay. And then my last question is, I know we've banned fireworks west of U-111. Are there other places in the city that we ought to maybe consider where the brush is dry, or areas? On that map, it looked like most of those fires were small lots, fields, those kind of things, not large swaths of dry brush. And like Mr. Thomas had mentioned, over by the Jordan River bottoms, kind of in there by the sewer plant. I don't know if that's restricted or if there's other restrictions of certain areas.
Right. So to answer the last part of your question, the Jordan River area is restricted along the Jordan River Canal down there. And then the Barney's Wash area that runs from basically our farthest west boundary down to about 7,800 south and 3,600 west, 4,000 west is. Now, as far as any other open fields in that area between 90th and 78th along 40th west, we have not, that was not included in the previous ban. Could we? Yeah, absolutely, we could. It's just a matter of adjusting the map and putting it back out. It'd probably be worthwhile to look at more of the data to see if what incidents we did have in those areas that aren't currently in the ban.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I have a question for you, which is the same one I asked you earlier, but I'd like you to answer it so the audience and other council can hear as well. Since the state has approved the increased use of aerial fireworks, and when they first did it, the incidences didn't seem so high, but each year they seem to be going up, with this year being the worst. Can you give us an idea why you think it happens that way? Why it's worse now than it was a couple of years ago?
Well, one, I wish I probably wouldn't be sitting here if I could read and predict that, but I'll give it a shot and hopefully I answer it the same way when we talked earlier. So if last year, you even seen in the media reports, last year the state fire marshal reported there were 10 incidents in the state of Utah related to fireworks. In West Jordan specific, I don't recall that we had any major property loss like we had this time, and I know we didn't have the overwhelming number of calls like we had this time. And if you also remember 2 to 3 years ago when the fireworks laws really got changed and it brought aerials in, if you remember, the time restriction was basically July 1 to July 30. Every day of July was legal to shoot fireworks. They came back, readjusted the time limit to where we sit today, 3 days before, 3 days after. Why did we have the 4th of July we had this year? The best thing that, as our staff and we talk about it, one is the temperatures and the weather conditions. I mean, you had a wet spring, you had tall grasses, you had that spree of time of 100-degree weather. But then, so you have that, but then just the quantity of fireworks that were out there was unprecedented, I believe. I think, as Councilmember Anderson's seen, if you were on the west side of the city, you saw a great show of aerial fireworks. I probably believe, too, that some of those aren't even Utah legal fireworks. Some of those are probably brought in, but you can't enforce that now that aerial fireworks are legal in the state of Utah. Prior years, you could because they weren't, and that was easy to enforce. But I don't really have a good answer why we're seeing so much. And even the day of the holiday this year fell, I believe, was on a Tuesday, which the next day was a work day. You would assume that that might have not been as bad. But the rest of the days leading up to the 4th were not nearly as bad as the 4th itself was. So that's my best guess as to why we had so many and why it was like that.
Thank you. So I'm going to take part of your words, and if I'm not using it right, let me know. So I'm thinking this is more like a perfect storm. We had the extra wet spring, we had the extra dry and heat in the last few weeks, and additional fireworks. And that's all that combination together has created more incidences than what we're normally used to. So if that's kind of a good summary, then I'll go with that.
And yeah, I think what you said is accurate, but also all those factors you did increases the likelihood of dry grass starting on fire when the smallest spark hits it.
Okay. Thank you. So I think it's most appropriate that someone in your position would have the authority to make adjustments due to the needs that arise that we don't have foresight over or control over, such as the weather incidences and things like that. Some of the things we do have control over are the sale of fireworks and the use of fireworks, and we have left that to the state to make those decisions, and they've done that, and I have a suspicion that there may be some adjustments coming up on this next legislative session. I also think because they're the ones that do that, then we have just been driving down this freeway and going along, and July 4th came along, and we went past that exit and saw, oh, look how bad that crash was on that exit. But we're already past that exit. Now we're coming to the next exit, which is July 24th. In my mind, I'm thinking that we have already passed the solid white line for the exit. Now we could hurry and put the brakes on and screech and turn and get off that exit and get off the 24th and make an ordinance, and hopefully something will change. But in my opinion, I think the best thing we can do at this point is stay in the lane that we're in and then provide a public education, and as Michelle Foote said, a voluntary ban. And if we get the word out and do the best we can now and get the word out for a voluntary ban and then start working on next year right away so that we can do something stronger for next year, because there's definitely a problem and it does need to be addressed, and I think it should be addressed. Thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I love the fireworks for the 24th of July. 24th of July is my birthday, so it just kind of goes along. together. I always look forward to it, which makes this one a really difficult one to decide. I love the fireworks. I love the celebration. I'm really concerned about the danger that comes into play this year. There's a number of unique factors in play this year that we haven't seen previously that give me pause, particularly when the chief talks about the 4th of July and having a delay in responding to some of those fire calls. Fire service is one of the few essential services that we offer as a city, and I get really worried when we hear that we're having a hard time fulfilling that obligation. To help figure out what direction we should go, I turned to social media just to see what people's thoughts were. My initial guess is that most people would probably not be in favor of an aerial firework ban, but I wanted to see. So I put this out on about 4 different forums, and surprisingly, only about 1 in 15 did not support the ban. So about 14 out of 15 would be supportive of a ban, at least from the polling that I did. I think some of that was due to the context in which the question was asked. If I just flat out asked who'd be supportive of an aerial ban, it would probably be the exact opposite. But I started off the comments with what Chief McElreath said at our meeting on Wednesday. I mentioned that, last night in our meeting, our fire chief stated that this year on the 4th of July, for the first time in at least 23 years, the calls for service exceeded our capacity, and we were not able to respond to 911 fire calls in a timely manner. On the VEC, the 911 call center, took 288 calls per hour between 9:30 p.m. and midnight. West Jordan firefighters responded to 54 confirmed field fires, one causing $30,000 in damage, which included 3 vehicles, and is being screened for charges. When you put it in that context, and I have almost a 6-year relationship with Chief McElreath. He has asked for almost nothing these 6 years that I've been here. So when he comes with a request, I take it to heart. I realize that we're competing with the rights of the individuals. Which rights are most important? Which rights take priority? Is it more important that I exercise my right to celebrate my birthday and the 24th of July, the birthday of our state, and send up those fireworks? Or that we try and protect damage to personal property that we can reasonably expect will happen? As I look at what's been proposed, I'm leaning very heavily in favor of supporting that ban on aerial fireworks. One of the folks who spoke in opposition to ban on aerial fireworks compared it to vehicles. Vehicles can be dangerous, but we don't go out and ban all vehicles. Well, no, that's very true. We don't. However, if there is a road that is not safe for vehicular travel, we close that road until that road can be made as safe as reasonably possible again, and then we allow it to continue. We're not doing an all-out ban on fireworks. We're taking the element that we believe is most dangerous and putting very restricted or very narrow constraints around how that ban would be in play. And that's the way I think that it should be. It should be as narrow as reasonably possible. When we look at some of the things like the date of the ban was set to go through the end of the year, I don't like that idea. I would prefer that we have an expiration at the end of August. I don't want to impact, I know at the year end during the holidays, fireworks are permitted in some situations. I don't want to have this out there. So the sooner it's repealed, the better. But I do think it's appropriate for us to put some sort of constraints around safety hazards that we reasonably believe will result in a substantial risk to property and perhaps persons. When we talk about enforcement, personally, I don't care about giving tickets. I care about making sure the behavior is appropriate. So I would love to see us engage with neighborhood watch programs because we don't have enough officers, we don't have enough fire crews to be out there. And what we've already heard is they're probably going to be completely inundated anyway. So I would like to engage the residents and give them educational material that they can share with their neighbors and say, here's why we have a ban on aerial fireworks just for this one holiday. I appreciate the thought to bring on additional officers and the need for funding for some of that overtime. and I'm completely in support of that, but I would like to look to the other resources we have in the community as well. My primary goal is ensuring the safety of property and persons and making sure the behavior goes along with that. So I don't care about the tickets unless we have somebody who's doing something egregious, which would frankly be enforced anyway. I think I'll hold my comments at that, but sum it up to say, while I'm very much a proponent of the fireworks and I enjoy the aerial fireworks, this year is different. And I think it would be dangerous of us to allow things to proceed, especially having been given the history that we just saw on the 4th of July. I think the appropriate thing to do would be to enact a limited ban on aerial fireworks through the end of August, so that we can do the best to ensure the safety of our residents. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Jacob is next, but I just wanted to make it clear that we're not considering a new ordinance tonight. It's just a resolution. So the term ordinance has been used a few times. It's a resolution that is being considered. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. First, before I launch into comments, a question for the fire chief and/or police chief. What kind of enforcement did we have on the restrictions that we had on the 4th of July and the week surrounding the 4th of July already in place? Most of the complaints that I get, and I'll encompass the question with this context, are well, you're not enforcing the current regulations anyway, so why will more regulations help? It's like gun control, right? I mean, if you're not enforcing the gun laws, more gun laws don't help. So that's I guess my first question is will the enforcement, can we step up the enforcement with or without a change to the restrictions or the ban?
So I'll answer for the fire department. I'll let Chief Diamond answer. For the 4th of July, this year, fire department done zero enforcement. And that was because they were going from call to call to call. The ideal thing would have been we brought on extra staff. We didn't leave anything on the bench other than an engine one of our fire engines that was out of service due to mechanical. Everything else was staffed. In past years, those crews would have been out driving neighborhoods in the band areas, trying to have a presence and also educating. But to your point of just this year, the fire department done absolutely zero enforcement. And Chief Diamond can respond for.
For the police department, we did not bring on any extra staff, but our staff, like Chief McElwee said, was pretty stretched with the calls for service that we did have. I didn't look at the statistics to see which ones were fireworks related. I know that traditionally every year, most of our calls that we do have are where we have in the past had on that extreme west side, where fireworks have gone off. By the time they go off and we get there, we can't really see who's done it. So it's very hard to do any enforcement that way. I know we had a few of those calls this time. A lot of calls we get also are calls regarding noise and things like that, that, you know, earlier in the morning, 1, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, when some people are still shooting them off. So this year, again, we didn't beef it up, but we got about the same enforcement that we usually do. And again, it's before when aerial fireworks were not legal, it was a little bit easier for us to go out and enforce some of those things. Where aerial fireworks are legal now, it's really hard to discriminate by the time it goes off to get there and actually do any enforcement.
If I could just add, Councilmember Jacob, while we're on that subject, regardless of how this, the decision that's reached tonight on this, I would ask that you maybe give direction to us, or we work with Mr. Palish, is that we do extra enforcement on the 24th either way. So keep that in mind as you have your discussions, please.
That's exactly where I was going with that. I appreciate that. Thank you. I had a little bit of an epiphany on this issue while I was out for a run this morning. I run from my house that is not in a restricted area up into the Sycamores area west of U-111 in the mornings when I go for a run, where it is restricted. And they're running along U-111 between 82nd South and 78 South. There are, in the restricted area, there's a gas station, a well-watered drainage basin park thing. The sprinklers are on almost every day that I run by it, so I appreciate that. It cools me down. And it's very green, not real flammable. And there's a lot of houses with watered lawns for the most part. Looks very good. Looks relatively safe on that side of the road. And then when on the east side of U-111, where fireworks are legal right there, there's the Serengeti Springs Apartments and a whole bunch of dry grass. One where there's a housing development going in, and then south of there where there's not housing developments going in yet, but yet fireworks are not restricted there. My point in saying that is that we have dry grass everywhere. There's dry grass on front lawns. There's dry grass on people that have, with our agricultural history that we have in our city, there's people with 1 acre lots and 2 acre lots that only a 1/4 acre is manicured and watered, and 3/4 acre is what we used to call in the Planning Commission native vegetation, which right now is dry grass, tall dry grass, and flammable dry grass. So if the intent of the state law was to allow the fire chief in his discretion to restrict fireworks where the urban meets the forest or the flammable, it's everywhere. I don't see a place that it doesn't apply in the city too much. Go ahead, Chief.
Let me just add into that. I get what you're saying, and another component that I don't know if you're considering, when you talk about that urban interface and why we do where we have done, is if a fire starts, there's access to get to it to put it out. And those areas that we have banned, the access is difficult to get in and fight a fire there before it gets into the homes as close as they are. These other areas you're talking about, they're generally paved roads pretty close, and we can get to put them out. So that's another component that we look at as we're doing the deciding what gets banned or not banned.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's not something that I had considered at the time. I guess where I'm falling on this is it is a question of rights, just like anything else that we talk about. You have a right and I have a right, and when those rights clash, we elect officials to help us sort that out. And if the elected officials think at it, then it goes to the courts and they sort that out. We deal with this with property rights, whereas I get to build whatever I want on my property, it's my property. But my neighbor also has the right to be free from me building whatever I want on my property and degrading his property. So we have elected bodies that help with that. The people in the city have a right to express themselves, freedom of expression, if you will, by lighting off fireworks. Yet the people also in the city have the right to be safe in their home. Which one is paramount in this? This is how I see that. It's the right of the people to do something that is legal versus the right of the people to be safe. And it's a tough decision, and I've been wrestling with it for a couple of days. I also went to social media to ask for neighborhood opinions, and mine was closer to 60-40 in favor. But it was still a clear majority in favor of enacting this. So that's the way I'm leaning at this point as well.
I can just add some. I think the thing to add to that is the reason we're here tonight and the way the process is working, we'll get a better decision this way than solely letting a single fire chief make that decision. So as difficult as it is, I do think that we'll have a better decision, whatever comes out, by doing it this way.
For me, I'd like to see an area where if we put this resolution in place, that residents could safely discharge aerial fireworks, possibly on some of the city parks where they remain green, and we have some areas that they could do this. It's hard at this late juncture to change the rules of the game, so I would like to see if there isn't a way that we could work with our legal staff and our professional firefighters and our police to find a location or a couple locations that we could possibly allow citizens to discharge on the 24th some aerial fireworks. That would be my opinion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I very much appreciate and agree with that thought. I know that there's some areas that would lend themselves well to it. I'm thinking in my district we have Constitution Park, where we might be able to have plenty of room for folks to view them, and we have a paved area where they can be set off. Perhaps we could have some folks from the fire department out there. I would be curious to know if there are multiple places like that throughout the city, but also given the inundation of calls that were experienced on the 4th of July, if that would be possible. So I think my question would be, well, I very much like that and would like to go that direction. My question would be, would it be possible for us to take action regarding this resolution that is basically approving the fire chief's decision, and then if the fire chief sees that, yes, this could be doable, he would be able to take that action? I guess my question is, would us giving him the authorization prohibit that? Because what you're suggesting, I think it would still allow that to happen.
I think if there was a motion, we can put the language in there that allow him to make that decision if he felt it was safe.
Chief McElwee, what are your thoughts?
We talked about this 4 years ago, and I was just talking with Deputy Chief Sharman. I think we definitely would be supportive of that. I think Mr. Bricky and our risk manager need to definitely weigh in on it. Right? If you're asking, if you wanted me to name a place right now, I can do that I think might be a possible good site for it, and that's where we light off, where the professionals light the fireworks off on July the 4th. That area would be available, but I think before we get ahead, we definitely need Mr. Bricky and the risk manager to weigh in just on the liability on city property.
David, would you like to comment at this point?
We can certainly start looking into that right away. I know at some of the parks, because of our existing rules and ordinances, there's a limitation on firing off fireworks, but I believe Mr. Palish has the authority under executive power to perhaps make a one-night exception, and I will help him address that through an executive order if need be.
Councilmember McConaughey?
I was going to make a motion, but seeing as there seems to be one other comment, I'll potentially hold.
If I may, thank you then. If it's okay, Mayor? I do like that idea as well. Again, I think we're so late in the game that getting the word out to everybody that is available for them to do and use, I think it'd be more effective in another year. So I would like to do it this year anyway, under a voluntary basis, and then do it under more of a required type basis in a following holiday.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on the information that's been shared with us this evening, I move to approve Resolution 17-144, approving the fire chief to issue an order limiting or eliminating the use of certain types of fireworks within the corporate boundaries of the city of West Jordan, which is to expire no later than September 30th, 2017. Further, I would give direction to the fire chief to see if a location or multiple locations could be identified which could be excluded from this ban, where residents could expect to safely or as safely as possible set off their own private fireworks.
We have a motion.
Can I clarify, are we talking about the resolution I handed out or the resolution that was previously published?
This is the resolution that you handed out.
Thank you.
I'll second for discussion.
So we have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion to the motion. We had one comment from our fire chief.
Just to clarify the motion, that the idea of finding a location in the city is just for this 24th of July, and that would expire in September as well. not for future years or nothing like that.
Correct. Since we're taking special action for conditions that exist this year, everything, I see everything that we're doing is very limited to this season. I have no intention of having a ban on aerial fireworks or anything similar next year. If as a council we decide that this looks good, we want to have a public place for folks to come do their fireworks next year, we can discuss that at another point in time. I'm only concerned right now and focused on the needs that are out there today.
That's perfect. And then if we do that, we can bring back how the event goes and pros and cons of that situation.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. Because this resolution does not force the chief to do certain things, he still has the flexibility to incorporate the restrictions that he sees as necessary. And because of his experience and background, I would be supportive of this resolution and trust his judgment through this next holiday.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, and I'm supportive of this that was passed out, the red line that you called it. I'm just wondering if we need to go all the way to September 30th. The state doesn't allow fireworks except for 3 days before and 3 days after. So I'm wondering if since we want this just for this time period, if we, instead of the September 30th date, that it runs through July 27th.
Would you make that an amendment to your motion, or it's up to you?
The date that was proposed by staff was at the end of the year, well, through January 4th. I'm not sure all the thought that went in behind that. So as we're looking into this, rather than get into the detail of why that date was picked, I'm just thinking weather is generally cooler, the fire danger is much lower by the end of September. And I think I worded it as, which is to expire no later than September 30th, 2017. So again, going back to what Councilmember Burton says, if the fire chief feels like something can be done sooner, there's nothing to prohibit him from moving that date up sooner. If we get a monsoon that suddenly comes in here tomorrow and he decides it's not necessary at all, that's still up to him. So I don't think there's a change that needs to be made on the motion there.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Anderson said exactly what I was going to say. I was thinking July 27th as well, because it's already illegal after July 27th. I believe the January 4th date was chosen because of the New Year's Eve holiday, where fireworks are also legal. However, like you mentioned, it's generally very cold, very hard to start a fire that time of year, even if you want to. So I would also be in favor of moving the effective date or the expiration date to July 27th. I believe that would be preferable for me. I'll leave it on the table for now for more comments.
Councilmember Newton.
I've been sitting here pondering. Had this occurred, had we had this thought a month ago, I'd be totally in favor of it. As it is, I think the timing is all wrong, and the effectiveness of this will be minimal. I wouldn't want your job, Chief. It's tough, and right now I don't want this job either. But I think that a total ban is not going to work. I don't think it would be effective, and I think that maybe things will be, we will have less use of fireworks on the 24th than the 4th. I may be totally wrong on that, but that's kind of my impression. So I'm going to oppose the motion very softly.
Councilmember Jacob.
May I like to offer I'd rather it be an amendment than a substitute motion, just to move that date to July 27th. I just believe that that's the more appropriate. The sooner it can expire, the better, and we can get on with normal life, as it were.
That would have to come as a substitute motion. I'm not willing to amend the motion. I think saying no later than September 30th, again, no later than. So it's still up to the chief. So if this chief does not feel comfortable I would prefer he have the latitude and leeway on that. I don't want to go July 27th, so you would have to make that as a substitute motion. I'm not willing to amend. Thank you.
Councilmember Jacob.
I would like to ask the clerk to read the motion on the table, just so that I don't leave out any details, because that's the only part I want to change.
Okay, let's see how good I got it. Councilmember McConaughey stated that based on the information that had been shared during the meeting, he moved to approve Resolution 17-144, approving the fire chief to issue an order limiting or eliminating the use of certain types of fireworks within the corporate boundaries of the city of West Jordan, Utah, with the date set to expire no later than September 30th of 2017. Further, give direction to the fire chief to possibly identify a location or multiple locations within the city where residents could safely as possible set off fireworks. It was seconded by Councilmember Jacob.
Yes, it was. I would offer a substitute motion to approve Resolution 17-144, approving the fire, should be authorizing the fire chief to issue an order limiting or eliminating the use of certain types of fireworks within the corporate boundaries of the city of West Jordan, expiring July 27th, 2017, and to, at his discretion, designate a place within the city that would be exempt to that same restriction.
I will second for discussion.
Just clarifying, is that for the 24th only or during that entire 6 days?
The exemption?
Yeah.
Let's say for the 24th only.
And so we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob. Do you second that motion? So we have a second by Councilmember Anderson with the clarification. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Anderson.
Okay, so what I would like to do, because I'm noticing that Councilmember Jacob is reading from what's in the packet, and the resolution is modified from the red line, or I'm sorry, the substitute motion. So is that off of the red line? Okay, so it's as, I just wanted to get clarification for discussions. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you, Mayor.
I will be supporting the motion based on the fact that I believe there will be a place for those who wish to be able to discharge as safely as possible without creating a fire, if our fire chief deems that appropriate. Let's vote. Yeah, this is on the substitute motion. That is the motion that's on the table, the substitute motion.
Can I make a clarification and maybe Chief McElreath can answer? The dates that were put in here were between the dates of July 24th and the expiration no later than July 27th. Is it not accurate that by state law they can light them off 3 days prior to the 24th?
You're correct.
So this would only start on the 24th?
I believe that if you want to
Change it to the 21st?
no, the motion was just for the 24th for the aerial, right?
For the exemption, yeah.
Yes, okay. Follow state law? Yeah, please,
Yeah.
please.
Mhm.
So for clarification, the motion, the intent of the motion is to allow the fire chief to impose a restriction that will expire on July 27th.
Okay, so no beginning date, just the ending date?
Right. State law prohibits it up
Okay.
until July 21st anyway, and after the 27th anyway.
Okay.
With the exemption of finding a safe place on the 24th to go boom.
Mhm. Okay, perfect.
Let's vote.
Okay. Councilmember Newton?
No.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
No.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-2.
Business item 3C, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 17-145, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of West Jordan and Mark R. Palish. David Bricky. Oh, please.
Sorry, I was going to move that we take a 5 to 10 minute break, recess, while the folks who are just here for the fireworks thing have a chance to orderly clear out, and then we can proceed.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion to the motion? Let's vote.
Just
All in favor? Any opposed? A 5-minute break only. I know there's several that wanted to leave early tonight. We still got a few things to do.
I would really prefer voluntary. Any indication.
The only thing we can do is call
I wish I was back. Yeah, I used to love it. So scary. I get to run more until I run in your garden. I only made it once all these years. We had 13 of us. So yeah, it was crazy at times, but it was just good. We spent a week on Big Island and a week on Oahu. Got back at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So yeah. Alexander, a friend of mine, called me and said, "There's a council meeting." Really? Yeah. She's a
I just thought it was important to have a line of 2 days on there. Yeah, I don't see how it's a campaign stuff. Whatever.
That's not the name.
Yeah. Just because I want to represent that. Well, we still could use like your comments up here. So. I know. Is that okay? I mean, I'd rather not, but I understand. Okay. I'm not going to. I think that's the only one.
Oh.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure. Well, it is. I wanted to make sure that it had, because in our original, it's in December, it's the January 4th.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure that that wasn't in here anymore. So yeah, I'll make it.
party staff, that's an area that's located in the city, that we can set up, have citizens come. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Well, we'll have some control over it. We'll try to get there. I think it may we also do fireworks on July 4th. We have an area that's special. We'll have the staff list. Yeah, I think we're not quite sure how that's going to look, but absolutely. Check it out with other communities. Yeah, I think this is what they said in the meeting. I think it's a good compromise. I think rather than our team just coming out and making a decision, our city council mayor, it's come with our decision. Thank you.
All right, looks like we got everything we need, so thank you guys. Yep, thank you.
All right.
But it's only because you asked. Anyone else?
So you would have done. Get out of the way.
I call the City Council meeting back to order. Business item 3C, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 17-145, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of West Jordan and Mark R. Palish. David Bricky.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Through the assistance of Mr. Palish and members of the City Council, we worked for the last several weeks to put together the document that you see attached below that includes recitals, the agreement, the succession plan, compensation, waiver, and all the terms that sort of follow that. It's my understanding that Mr. Palish is prepared to execute the agreement. I have not signed the agreement because I thought I would wait till everyone is present so that if there's any discussion points and we need to modify it yet again, I'd sign that. But as it is right now, I'm very comfortable moving forward and signing the agreement that is currently before the council. And if you have any questions, I can try answering them. The only item I might want to point out is in the resolution itself, in the language below Section 2, it says adopted by the City Council of West Jordan, Utah, this 14th day. I'd ask Ms. Briggs to strike the word September and replace it with the month July.
Okay.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 17-145 with the correction recommended by our city attorney.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion to the motion? Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to personally thank Mr. Palish for all of his efforts. We've made significant progress during his tenure here. There have been a number of substantial issues that he's been able to resolve, progress that we've made on multiple fronts. He has accomplished some monumental things, and it will be incredibly difficult to find somebody who can live up to the standard that he has set. I want to express my personal gratitude for the professionalism that he has displayed, and personally for his friendship. I've learned a lot working with him. He's been a significant asset to our city, and I thank him for coming out of retirement to work with us, and wish him the best as he returns to retirement. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo Councilman McConaughey's comments. He beat me to it, but they're right in line. It's been a pleasure and a privilege getting to know you and working with you, and thank you for coming out and serving West Jordan, coming out of retirement and enjoying your life with West Jordan. I hope there were some enjoyment times there, and I look forward to further association with you. And I also want to add my thank you to Councilman McConaughey for the great deal of work and research that he did to help create this document. So thank you, Councilman McConaughey.
I'd just like to state that everything I said to the Tribune yesterday is accurate, and I'm happy for Mark Palish. It's been a pleasure. Councilmember Anderson.
I too, as a relatively new member, not as new as Mr. Newton, but relatively new in the 7 months that I've been here on the City Council, I have a great deal of respect for Mark and his background and his knowledge and city operations, and I appreciate that you live in District 4, and I appreciate your friendship and the times that we've been able to visit together and discuss ways to make West Jordan better, and it's just been an honor to work with you these past 7 months, and I want to thank you personally, Mark. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Let's roll.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Newton?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Something has come about just in the last couple days, and I'd like to turn the time over to Councilmember McConaughey for discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. As we get to closing remarks, the item that I wanted to bring up, this is for our city manager, possibly city attorney. During the budget session, we set the rates, the utility rates that would go into effect on July 1st. And there seems to be some question. We've received some comments from some residents that it looks like some of those rate changes have gone into effect prior to July 1st. So we want to ask staff to investigate the cause of the discrepancy. If it looks like there has been a billing error, obviously we need to go back and credit for any amount that was charged too soon. But we would also like a full report from staff explaining how this happened, how we can avoid it again, confirm if it did indeed happen. But it just seems very irregular. We've not seen that before. So I would propose, this doesn't require a resolution, I would propose that we give direction to staff to investigate the concerns regarding the utility billing rates that were expected to have gone into effect on July 1st. Is there any opposition to giving that direction to staff?
No, just to clarify, specifically the sewer rate and the water rate are the two that have been most prominent in area.
Those were the two that were specifically called out, but that has me wondering about the others as well. So I would like everything investigated, and if there are any other issues, obviously we would rectify them, but I want to look at it all. But specifically those two, yes.
Sounds good. Councilmember Burton.
Due to the emails I've been receiving today as well, I would support that and strongly encourage it to happen quickly, because I think it must be a broad problem across the city.
Councilmember Anderson.
You'd mentioned, Councilmember Burton, about it being timely. Do we want to put a time on that by next council meeting or a week or a report back next council meeting? Okay, thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. If there are no other remarks, I'm prepared to make a motion. So since there don't appear to be any other remarks, I move that we move to closed session to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation, and or strategy sessions to discuss purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of water right or water share, and adjourn from there.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote. Oh, excuse me. We had one comment from our fire chief.
Can I just ask?
There's a motion on the floor. Can we finish that, and then I'll give you an opportunity.
Thank you.
I forgot. Let's vote.
Mayor Rolfe,
Yes.
Councilmember Newton,
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Burton,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
Before we go into closed session, Chief McElry.
Yeah. So based on what we've done with the fireworks, are you, as I just think about how we are going to identify that place, there could be some costs in possibly temporary fencing, something like that. Are you okay if I work with Mr. Palish and we come up with I don't expect it to be a large amount. And secondly, we would continue with the enforcement that we indicated in the staff packet. Is that kind of what you envision that would happen?
That's how I understand it, and it's really it's your show.
All right. And lastly, I will say that I think we came up with a much better decision tonight, and I think that we'll get a lot of press out of the uniqueness of finding a location within the city to do that. I don't know, I can't think of somewhere in Salt Lake County that that's occurred. And so I appreciate Councilmember McConaughey and everyone who helped me work through this, and it'll be a good thing.
Councilmember McConaughey, final comment.
Just wanted to point out that 7 minutes ago, KSL sent out a text message saying West Jordan City Council approves resolution banning aerial fireworks through Pioneer Day following a rash of brush fires on 4th of July. So that's already out.